Well, something of an Omaha landmark along I-80 could soon transform into over 200 plus new homes. Developers want to knock down most of these tall silos, you know the ones at 35th and Vinton, and build hundreds of apartments. Well, this week, the Omaha Planning Board gave the green light for over $10 million in public TIF loans to fund about 20% of the project's total estimated cost. The plan would keep a few of the old silos intact, add plenty of new parking, and pave over what's now a gravel stretch of 34th Street. Living in this new development could be pricey compared to the rest of the neighborhood. The cheapest option included in the application is a 492 square foot studio, estimated at $1,100 a month, which developers claim is market rate. Those studios would only make up 8 of the more than 200 planned units. The majority price well over Omaha's median rent. That's about $1,300 per month, according to Redfin. The median rent in this development is over $1,500 per month. We found several nearby houses renting for less than that. Now, Omaha's City Council still